If you're a follower of my channel, you know that I love all things 80s and I love all things Games Workshop. But what's the most 80s-y and Games Workshop-y thing of all time? Necromunda. While most of the 40k universe revolves around space marines and giant epic wars in outer space and Tyranids and Eldar, Necromunda takes place with humans, basically just looking for food, looking for resources. Every single bullet counts in Necromunda. So it's just, in that way, it's very gritty and it's very dark and it's so 80s. The latest installment of Necromunda is called Dark Uprising, and it's a campaign that deals with all the different gangs and how they're surviving right now as there's a shortage of food. The food that people eat on Necromunda is basically people. But my favorite aspect by far in Necromunda is all the different gangs and how they each have such a specific, iconic aspect of the 80s that's attributed to them. So let's take a look right now at all the different house gangs of Necromunda, starting with my favorite, the gang that got me into Necromunda, House Escher. Let's start things off with House Escher, and as you can see right here, they're very much the punk rock Amazons of the Necromunda world, and you can see the influences that they take from here. They're definitely part New York City kind of gutter punk, and also kind of almost like Native American, Indian. They're very tribal, lots of feathers and things, and then totems and skulls and things like that. This is Adam Ant. Adam Ant's band was also kind of weird like that as well. The 80s had a lot of weird stuff like that. House Goliath represents one of the most 80s thing in the world to me. I mean, they're just pro wrestlers. I mean, check them out. This is the Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal, and I mean, you can see right there the shoulder pads, the spikes, the enormous amounts of performance-enhancing drugs that they use to get all these muscles. House Goliath is definitely 1980s WWF pro wrestling at its best. House Cawdor are sort of kind of like the desert scavengers, very much like the Tusken Raiders, very warriors of the wasteland, putting what they have together, scraping things together, tying it all up, and it's all hidden behind this sort of redemptionist fire cult. And House Warlock is just a classic 80s Mad Max looking post-apocalyptic Armageddon. I put this movie Hell Comes to Frogtown, which has my favorite wrestler, Roddy Piper, who definitely looks like he could have been in House Warlock in this movie. Just an in-your-face, gritty, no-frills Necromunda gang. And here we have House Delac, who are very much the goth house of Necromunda. As a gang, they probably listen to a lot of Depeche Mode, and as you can see here, their look and influence comes very much from these Hellraiser movies and all that very, very kind of cryptic, dark 80s horror. The House Vance R is this really technological, they're very serious, sort of futuristic, almost kind of Star Trek-y, but I see them more as these kind of characters from Dune. It's very futuristic science fiction wasteland, but in this very serious, with this serious tone. The corpse grinder cults are probably the most easy to see where the influences come from. Every 80s movie had a giant blade in it or someone who looked like Leatherface. Then there are the Palanite Enforcers, who are sort of like the hired police of Necromunda, and they remind me of one of my favorite things of all time, and that's Judge Dredd. I was a huge fan of 2000 AD, and they look like Judge Dredd both in aesthetic and how they act with, let's just say, excessive force. And there's also all other kinds of various different characters and heroes in Necromunda. One is the bounty hunter, Kal Jericho. Now, first of all, how 80s is that name, Kal Jericho? And of course he's a bounty hunter, because in the 80s everybody was a bounty hunter. And this is the cover of one of his most recent books, and like you can just see right there, he's basically Duran Duran. Mixed in with a little bit of Missing Persons. By the way, Missing Persons would be a great name for the next Kal Jericho novel. And then there's the bounty hunter Mad Donna Ulanti. Do I even really need to start with Mad Donna Ulanti? So is Necromunda the most 80s thing of all time? Well, I guess that's up to you, rock and roll fans. So please leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. And if it's not, what is the most 80s thing of all time? Because I'm really interested in knowing. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. Talk to you soon.